Well, I'm not saying this just to make you happy, Lawrence. I think history has to be a key part of how any organization thinks, because if we only rely on our experience as individuals, the data set will be too small. It's in the nature of uncertainty that the kind of events that we have to grapple with are not necessarily events we've experienced before in our lives. Although there had been a major pandemic in our lifetimes, which was HIV/AIDS, it was very different in nature from COVID-19. You had to really be able to remember 1957-58, which was the last time a really major respiratory pandemic, a pandemic or respiratory disease happened. And not many of us do have clear memories of 1957. So I think that there has to be in any organization some kind of inbuilt historical component that kind of forces people to think about the long run. And that exposes them to this much larger data set. I remember in 2007-8 struggling to communicate to people what a really big financial crisis would be like. In fact, I can remember almost being pelted with bread rolls when I talked about the coming crisis in late 2006 at a Morgan Stanley conference in Lyford Key. So it's quite hard to convince people that big disasters can happen if they haven't lived them. And most people in the markets in 2007 had careers that began in like 1982, and they basically lived through this extraordinary bond bull market. They'd lived through the great moderation, as it was rather misleadingly called, and they couldn't quite imagine something like 1929. So I think getting some kind of historical perspective into an institution is very important because it sensitizes you to the black swans that do periodically land, but they don't land so often that you can base your response on your own 30, 40 years of career.